do these scripted scenes, and it's supposed to expose, what America is, and then the other half are just psyop, fucking false flag attacks, basically, where he's going around.
Yeah,
and then the movie is just a product of that.
Yes,
so what he's actually doing is he's going around creating headlines.
Yes, the media ran a story, and so
headline isn't Borat does this. It's these country music people do this.
TLDR, the media ran a story last year saying that there was a Klansman at CPAC, and then it was simply an idle curiosity that we discovered only recently that actually it was Borat. Next, we're
supposed to pretend that these movies are just, these are just fun, there's just a jokey character he does, and it's like he's going around like, he's at Mandalay Bay, like firing, automatic weapons into the crowd, and then months later after that, that was just a Borat sketch. But then we don't go, wait a minute, what about Mandalay? It's like, it was a Borat sketch, so.
It's a prank, bro. The camera's right there.
It's a prank, bro. Building 7 is just collapsing. And then later we go, he's Borat sketch. Very nice. And,
the dancing Sacha Baron Cohen in the truck watching buildings collapse on 9/11. You can't see it. Dan made this like really scrunched face, angry, shaking his head. Wouldn't it be crazy if there were people who? I'm not even going to do it. I'm not even going to do it. If you're listening to this podcast, you already know.
Rand Paul's getting his ribs kicked in. So 6 months later, we find out, that was just Sacha Cohen. Yeah,
you scamp. Okay. Next, there are two ways to interpret this next thing.
How long until Borat's going to the hood and stepping on people's? He's prank, bro.
Remember, psychic attack on whites only.
Yes, I'm sorry.
Right? There was another police shooting recently. You may not have heard about it. It was a guy named Andre Maurice Hill who was shot in. Andre Maurice Hill was killed in Columbus, Ohio. He was 47 years old. He was killed in, like, everything about this shooting was perfectly bad. He was on his own property, getting out of his car, phone in his hand. He supposedly matched a description to somebody who didn't look anything like him. The cop from the body camera footage basically walked up and fucking blammed this guy. You could see the light from his phone on the cell phone camera footage. It was every trope of a black guy, an unarmed black man shot by police.
Yeah.
The election's over, Dan. So this doesn't matter. That's one way to interpret this. If you needed any more proof that the mass destruction that we faced over the summer, protests following, mostly peaceful protests following the death of George Floyd. If you needed proof that that's all political, don't do this stupid, cucky conservative thing where you say, what about this white guy who got killed? No. What about this black guy who got killed in all the ways, like everybody agrees, and yet there's not a peep, no riots. And the reason there are no riots is because the election is over. That's reason one. There's reason two, which is a bit more nefarious, which is the media deliberately picks these more fringe cases, like George Floyd, who swallowed his drug supply and overdosed on the floor, and it picks those cases precisely because they are marginal. Precisely because, conservatives who missed the memo might disagree about it. It's not humiliating to make conservatives and whites more broadly say that Andre Maurice Hill was an innocent victim of police brutality. It is an assault on the senses, an assault on reason to say that George Floyd was. Right. There's another good story also about how in Portland, insurance companies are not renewing policies unless they specifically exclude civil disturbances. So nobody in Portland basically has riot insurance anymore, or they're paying these super heavy premiums The article is entitled Insurers Balk at Covering Portland Businesses. And you can find it on OregonLive.com. Shouldn't be too hard to find. Oh, there was some stuff about Fauci. Oh, yeah, and other news, if we read the New York, let's just breeze this one really quick. You don't got to say anything. So as I mentioned before, public health officials are trained to lie to you. And Dr. Fauci admitted so in the New York Times when he said that, I'm just going to just quote it. So the article is called How Much Herd Immunity is Enough? And it is in the New York Times. It was on December 24th or something like that.
It was about Fauci lying?
Yeah, December 24th, 2020. He says, in a telephone interview the next day, Dr. Fauci acknowledged that he had slowly but deliberately been moving the goalposts. He is doing so, he said, partly based on new science and partly on his gut feeling that the country is finally ready to hear what he really thinks. Hard as it may be to hear, he said, he believes that it may take a close to 90% immunity to bring the virus to a halt, almost as much as it needs to stop a measles outbreak. Now, what I want to emphasize here is that Dr. Fauci, he has a perfectly good rationale. If he told you 90% right off the bat, you might decide that that's never going to happen, and so you just be less compliant. But if he tells you 70 and he gets his foot in the door, then you go, okay, really 80. All right, well, okay, really 90. But he's lying to you. But he has to. It would be irresponsible, given what he believes his job is. He lies to you. It's part of his job. And there's nothing you don't need to be a psychopath to do that. It's like what I was saying earlier in the episode about, filling out fake ballots for Biden. At a certain point, you need to be a coward not to do that.
But if we can be honest, the fact that he's Italian isn't helping.
Right? If I were an epidemiologist instead of an economist, I'd lie to people all the fucking... If you were in his shoes, if I were in his shoes, I'd lie all the time. Right? I'd tell all the lies he told. Like, if I needed to hoard masks for emergency workers, I'd be like, yeah, masks don't work. Stay away. In fact, let me just take these masks away so you don't get any ideas. And I start giving to doctors? Fuck yeah, I do that. Right? This is just what these people do. And I'm just, I'm one of the good academics. I'm just letting you know that all the other academics lie. As an economist, I don't lie, though. Right? I would lie if I were an epidemiologist like him. But as an economist, I always tell the truth. So you all know.
There are two academics standing in front of a door. One always tells, one always lies. One is black and one is Italian. I don't understand why we keep listening to... I saw this video the other day of him. He was talking with Governor Polis, Colorado, who is a Reason magazine favorite because he's super libertarian. Although I guess he's so libertarian, he's locking everyone. They were basically telling everyone, don't Thanksgiving dinner, right? If you go to Thanksgiving dinner, that's it. It's game over, man. Everyone's dead if you do that. And the way he put it was Fauci said there will be a surge on a surge. We already have our fall surge. It's going to surge again while it's surging. Well, now it's months later. It hasn't happened. That was another one where he was just wrong. How many times does this guy have to be provably wrong? Where he says, X, if you do X, Y will be the result. We do X, Y doesn't happen. If you don't do this, that'll happen. And the opposite happens. And then we find at every turn he's lying, he's scheming, he's fucking greasing the vig on us. Why are we listening to this guy? You're not allowed to question him. And we're all just trying to get our lives back. Is that just me? Marcel, I feel like we're just trying to get our lives back. I don't know if you saw that clip of the woman having a breakdown in CVS, but the point is, everybody's at their wits' end. And then you have Fauci coming along, going, hey, all we need is... I said this before. They said we need 80% of people to wear it. This will be gone in 2 weeks or 6 weeks. And now we've had 90% for 6 months. And they just go, we need 100. Okay, we need 70% of people to get vaccinated. Oh, actually, 50% are already willing to do it. And then Fauci just comes along. He's like this fucking running your pizza place. And Fauci comes in and does the whole be a nice pizza place. Shame something happens to it. If you don't put some stickers on the floor and wear a mask and keep 25% capacity and do it, then he says you got to wear another mask on top of your mask and you got to stay home. You can't go to Thanksgiving dinner and you do that. Then he comes around with a vaccine. It says 7 out of 10 of you got to get vaccinated. And you go, okay, we'll do that. Then you know what? Never mind. Fuck you. It's going to be 8 out of 10. Fine, we'll do 8 out of 10. Go fuck yourself. It's going to be 9 out of 10.
This is as good a time as any to talk about what we were going to talk about in the beginning. So, Dan, I don't have sympathy for the anti-mask people, really.
You don't have sympathy for anyone.
That's true. But in particular for the anti-mask position, because I remember in the good old days when conservatives were pro-mask. Okay? Because remember, Taiwan, the UN is in China's pocket because, and they won't talk about how good a job Taiwan did in stopping COVID because those evil Chinese communists, they locked people up. But Taiwan showed that you can use masks. But the UN doesn't want to talk about Taiwan.
Now we have more data, and we know that that's not true. The idea that masks are some sort of useful tool in the fight of this pandemic. If you go over to Tom Wood's Twitter, you can see enough charts. He talks about it all the fucking time. There's no evidence for that.
So then question, why did Taiwan do so well at stopping COVID?
Why did all the Asian countries have similar...
Because they all have a culture of wearing masks.
The thing is, that sounds like it makes sense, right? Then, compare other countries that aren't Asian. You compare different states, different countries, different counties, mask ordinances, mask compliance. There's no data that would bear out that prove that masks are helping anyone. And then the only thing they have to fall back on are the Asian countries all did well. And they assume that must mean it's because Asian countries wear masks. There's lots of other things that could be an effect, whether it's weather, whether it's the population age, whether it's some sort of pre-existing immunity in Asian populations to SARS-CoV type, to SARS, MERS, etc. types of virus strain.
That could be. My mind's not changed though. Sorry.
So here's the thing. Do you have any other data points?
Nope, just my memory of the before times and the narrative around these Asian countries. Asian countries wear masks; they do well. Masks seem like a good idea.
So in your mind, the difference between America, let's say Tennessee, and Taiwan is masks.
Yeah, basically.
Really? That's the only difference?
Yeah, basically.
In the populations?
Yep. Yeah.
So you've come around to my side on the view that we're all just one species, right?
Well, I mean, one species, of course we are.
It is absolutely ridiculous to pretend that you realize I can't believe you're falling for the idea. Asian countries, quote, wear masks, whatever that means, and Asian countries, quote, did well, whatever that means.
Mask wearing is common. Their cases were lower over time. And also, correlation, if it's correlated, it must be caused. The other thing...
two data points.
No, I have 3. So there's South Korea...
And also those two... No, what I mean is you have two variables. And even those two variables, mask wearing is common. Oh, that sounds very scientific. What does that mean? What percentage of them wear masks? And what is the percentage that needs to be wearing it? The people who are using the logic you're using told us that all we need is 80% of Americans to wear masks, and in 8 weeks this would go away. 90% of us have been wearing masks. 6 months later, it's not going away.
Dan, I'm an Austrian economist. I don't make point predictions. I'm only making a pattern prediction. I can't tell you how much unemployment will be caused with minimum wage here or there. All I know is that it seems to make sense that a high minimum wage causes unemployment.
If you look at those charts, which I know you're not going to do.
I know I will.
Yeah, you're not going to look into it. Anybody who actually wants to look into it can look at those charts, and you can see, I would say go to Alex Berenson and Tom Wood, Rational Ground, and Panda, which is the pandemic data website. You can see all these charts of this county had a mask mandate. This one had 80% mask compliance. This one is a different country where they didn't have a mask ordinance. This is an Asian country where they, quote, wear a mask. This is a different culture country where they, quote, don't wear masks. There's no evidence that any of this stuff works, that these non-pharmaceutical interventions do anything. And the peer-reviewed studies that have been done on non-pharmaceutical interventions, masks, lockdowns, and social distancing, back that up. And the only thing we have on the other side is a plausible-sounding, flimsy theory that masks must do something.
All right, everybody. So at this point, apparently the bot stopped recording me and Dan. So there is no footage after Dan's last point there. And since I'm editing this episode weeks after we recorded it,